Hi, FM Banker. Welcome back to the BlueSitron podcast. And the last time we had a conversation, we talked about intellectual dishonesty, and I had still receiving lots of feedback on that particular conversation that we had. Touched up on quite a lot of things, and I'll say things that, of course, reflect, day-to-day activities of our lives, vis-a-vis permissions, feminism, and the likes. So today, I'd like us to touch up on the Black tax. I mean, people would hear this, or some people will hear this, and they would resonate with this. And some will hear this and they'll say, what is Black tax? What is that? So for me, this is very interesting. And I mean, I don't think there's any other two people I'd rather have to discuss this. And that's why, I've brought you lovely people back. So welcome. Efe and Banke, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's begin. So my view of Black tax comes in different forms. One, Africans in diaspora, let's just say Africans, right? I mean, Black people were everywhere, were in other continents as well beyond Africa, but fine. Africans, they're everywhere in the sense that, they leave home, leave motherland and go to other countries for whatever reasons. Migration happens. Migration has been happening since the beginning of time, right? But in this case, people back home, and this is depending on whatever country one comes from, right? People back home, just for some reason, assume wherever you're going to, such a place is paved with gold, silver, and platinum, and whatever. Therefore, or maybe money is growing on trees or hanging down the chandelier or somewhere. Therefore, you should be able to send money back to them. This is not synonymous to just Africans, to be fair. I mean, you find this in other communities as well, Asian community, even. So, but our conversation today is more on the Black tax. And I was having a quick chat with Banke, and she did mention something very interesting to say. Black tax even doesn't necessarily, start and even end with the diasporans, people that are abroad. Even you could be where you are and be experiencing the Black tax. You could literally be in Angola, and be responsible for people back in maybe somewhere else in Angola or even where you are, But of course, more people probably resonate with you being, a diaspora and you being abroad. So what are the expectations, right, from people back home, people in Africa? What are they expecting from their family members abroad? And should those of us abroad, should we, diasporans, cut these people off? Of course, it's also not everyone abroad that has family back home that is experiencing this, but it is a majority of people that experience this. So is this something that should be encouraged or discouraged so that those back home can also, get things done? I don't know if my question or my thoughts here is aligning, but what do you guys think? Banke, do you want to kick off?
Sure. Okay. Should it be cut off? I don't think so. I disagree with that one-dimensional outlook for the Black tax. I know most times we have to label things and we have to call it something. But I think the fact that we've already called it Black tax, we've already started, we've given this phenomenon no chance. Um, I think it depends on how you look at it, but if you look at it from a point of duty that some people are actually happy to do or blessed to be in a position to do, there isn't a significant negative connotation to that phenomenon for a number of people, right? It's actually a measure of success. And we all define success in different ways. Also, utility to you and I could be very different things. So my ability to be able to pay this Black tax, as you call it, could be my sense of um, being able to carry out my duty, my love language that I'm able to pay, and paying it forward. You might say that's paying it backward. Does it have negative implications? Absolutely, yeah, we can talk about that later. The fact that it kind of like stops you from being able to build wealth or, all that. But that's dependent on your own mental fortitude and lack of boundaries and not being honest about your situation and wanting to look like you got money on flossing when you're not. So I don't believe that it should be cut off. I think it should be understood. I think it should be an opportunity for us to have proper conversations, meaningful conversations about money. I think we should look beyond the financial implications of black tax. We should look at it more of giving back. You know what I mean? So I think you can build wealth, generational wealth, not necessarily in a one-dimensional way. You can use the lattice kind of like structure to look at it, and then do more than just throwing money at it. Don't just throw money at people that need it, right? And make sure that you are looking after yourself. Make sure that it's not breeding other bad behaviors like financial sort of infidelity within your relationships, or an ability for you to just say, okay, if I put money at it, they won't disturb me again. Actually be involved. So for me, I see it as duty that some people are happy to pay, but I understand how it can be detrimental, and we can go into that later. But that's really a function of you mismanaging your situation and your reality. It's an expectation. We're Africans. We're happy to do it. It just makes you feel a little bit useful, and it feeds some narcissism that we have as well. Because imagine, people love that. People love being needed. People love being the one they can't start the family meetings without. People love writing checks. So I think it serves several purposes, but I'm for it because I can see the value of it. Just manage it like most things and be measured with it. So I'm for it.
I like the measurement part of things, but I mean, I'm going to come back to a few points that you've raised. It's looking at things from a point of duty, and possibly in this case paying it backward when possibly it should be paying it forward. But of course, there's nothing wrong with paying it backward. So I'll address that. But Efe, what's your view? Should people back at home be cut off because there's some expectations that you are abroad and you should be able to send money to them? And also, maybe even you may be in Lagos or you may be in Cape Town, but your family is in Pretoria, just an example, and they're expecting you to be remitting some sort of money because you feel, as Banker said, from a point of duty, you feel it's your duty to take care of these people. So what's your view? Should they be cut off, or should you just, see it as a measure of success?
Yeah, I think absolutely not. I don't think people should be cut off. Yeah. This phenomenon, the black tax and the various ways that it expresses itself, I think it's at its heart, it's a couple of things, right? And I think two important ones, that all the economic imbalances that people have experienced over time. You live in let's say third world country or a developing economy, you want better opportunities, right? And those opportunities are by people or provided by people, sometimes family, other times just your hustle, right? And you run away. And also what the racial wealth disparities that have existed and go all the way back to slavery, right? And we have to talk about reparations and all of those things. So people essentially over time have sought better opportunities. They will leave family, they will leave wives and kids, travel across borders and, just to get a better opportunity. So, I mean, without, obviously, it's easy to see how obligations are created in those instances, right? And how the expectations from people back home. But I think for me, there are a couple of things that need situated and, with this conversation. But the most important thing in all of this, the individual, you're the most important person in this equation. You've got agency, and it's your decision how you choose to spend your income ultimately. Yeah. But of course, there's all that talk what we say that in Africa it takes a village to raise the child. I'm not sure how true that is in these instances, but ultimately we're dealing with very diverse
Mm-hmm.
Some of us who've come from homes where there was love, protection, there was provision, there was direction, all of those things, right? And I think it's the bonds that are created through those experiences that really bring in the obligation. For me, it's days I should send money home, right? I think more importantly, it's those bonds that maybe for many individuals make it a sense of duty, right? That I've got a story, I've got a journey that I've come through, yeah. And look, it's setting expectations that have been created, right? But conversely, there are people who haven't come from homes where that kind of background or whatever platform was provided. But again, these expectations are still there, you know. And I guess that's where the the angst comes in, right?
Yeah.
Why why is there this expectation that I've got to continue to support someone's education back home? You know, I got here all by myself, and you can't knock that argument, right? Again, so I think it's ultimately it's an important it's important for people to be able to support those who have helped them on their journey, or pay it forward, as the case may be, and support other people the way they've been supported, right? But I don't think it should be treated as an obligation, because ultimately, again, like I said at the beginning, it's their decision, it's people's decision how they choose to spend their income. And I think Banker touched on something about wealth creation and the like, and maybe something we should explore, because this racial disparities, the wealth disparities that we've seen over time.
Yeah.
And part of it is the fact that, look, you know, estate planning, savings and investments, and all of those things haven't been prioritized over time in Black communities, right? And so people don't just look, let's live for today, tomorrow will take care of itself. But it can't work. If you're going to break this thing, you know, this must be part of the equation.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to have these conversations now, because I think if you look at it from generation to generation, there are a few tweaks that are happening as we're going forward. You know, if you look at the way our parents were, it was never a level playing field where wealth is concerned when it comes to Black communities, right? So growing up, I saw a lot of my friends that were given 60,000, 80,000 to, you know, put as deposit down. You could argue, right? And then you start a life, right? So, and a lot of Black communities didn't have that because our network is just different. The statistics are very clear. It's very different from where we start from where white people start from.
Yeah.
But that's one thing, right? So you've seen that. You want to make a conscious effort to make sure that you're not perpetuating that sort of disparity, right? So you have to be responsible, like Ife says, to prioritize self, but not just about prioritizing self, to be honest, okay, about what your obligations are. But in order to be honest, you got to know them. So a lot of people are angry. I think our anger is misplaced. It's not the Black tax you're angry about. It's your lack of mental fortitude to have boundaries, to know what you have, to know what you ought to have, to know what you need to do, right? To make sure that that narrative changes. Because I think the playing field is becoming a little bit more leveled compared to your parents and the parents before them, who just lacked everything and they had to basically do it. A lot of us are not starting from that. So I think really and truly, if you want to detach, look at people that are not subjected to Black tax, apart from, let's say, white people. Within the Black community, there are people that practice that detachment. Oh, I don't send anybody. I'm not doing that. Are they really better off? You know what I mean? So I think these things are nuanced. It's much better for you to figure out what it does for you. If you've got bonds that you want to nurture and you can be pragmatic about your help, it might actually mean that you're better off in your overall sense of self and where you're going financially if you just manage yourself better and include this as part of the story. Don't necessarily let it define you, and don't have such a negative connotations about it that not doing, you're spending money in other ways anyway. Do you know what I mean? So maintain that energy. If you're going to be so adamant and negative about Black tax and what it does, let's keep that same energy with what you're doing with other vices that you have. But I just think that just prioritize. Don't let us compromise our wealth, our generational wealth formation. And the only thing we can do that is just to make sure that we compartmentalize appropriately, and we don't do more than we don't bite more than we can chew. But I think that our parents and ourselves are a good explanation of how these things can be tweaked to our realities. We don't always have to pass on poverty because we've looked after communities, who don't have anything to show for it at this hour. Okay, so that's up to us.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you've both made really important points. And something that also comes to mind is the fact that, yes, it's important to pay it forward. It's important to build generational wealth, and encourage people to do the right things and do right by them. And you also have to have that discernment to also look inside, whereby you're helping, you shouldn't actually, forget yourself. Whereby you're helping, you should actually be able to manage yourself, as opposed to just, shelling out money just because, or shelling out whatever you have. And as you say, some people that are like, you know what, I don't care, I'm not going to help anyone, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're doing okay themselves. We don't know. But, in some cases, I feel it is more, I'm looking for the right term to use, whereby you feel you have this emotional attachment to your family, and you feel like you have to do right by them, even with your last drop, because, maybe someone did it for you, someone paid it forward for you, or maybe with this situation of, the first child thing. Oh, you're the first child. You should be able to support your younger ones. You should be able to do this, things like that, almost like a self-imposed responsibility. And sometimes people back home, they're doing well than people in the diaspora. In fact, maybe most times even, I don't know, because sometimes the guys in the diaspora, just because they're earning dollars and pounds and yen or whatever, by the time you're 9 to 5, or maybe you're doing some food business, or maybe you're cleaning, the school field or whatever, putting money together, saving money, because, for example, you want to build property back home, you want to get things done, you have family back home, and you're funneling your money home to help these people, but at the same time, you're looking to also build something for yourself. But maybe those people are using your money to build something for you, for themselves, because they feel, you know what, Lagbaja will be fine. He'll be able to, he'll after all, he's abroad. He'll be fine. For me, it's number one, the Lagbaja having a self-imposed responsibility. Number two, the people back home having this level of entitlement about, you're abroad now, so what's up? You should be able to make it. They're paying you in pounds. They're paying you come on, they're paying you in dollars. They're paying you in yen. So sometimes these are things, one also needs to look into. But then going back to what both of you said, people should not be cut off. People back home or whoever it is that, one is supporting, they shouldn't be cut off. But I think they should be they should be made to realize that it's not always rosy.
It's but that lack of realization is not always their fault. We are responsible, you see, because we can't have these conversations and not be honest about it. See, is it self-imposed, or the fact that nobody just wants to be honest? If you go home and you get resentful, the fact that the person you've been spending your yen and your pounds and euros to actually has a roof over his head that he doesn't pay mortgage on, but you're here in Berlin and you're living from paycheck to paycheck. The fact of the matter is, he's not responsible for your lack of self-evaluation, right? Okay, so you're given what you're given. You're given it and you've gotten the utility from that, right? Where you feel good that you're helping. But he's not responsible for your lack of planning. He's not responsible that you haven't taken responsibility to think what should happen to you in your pension and retirement years. You know what I mean? Yes, he can assume that you live in a functional system and roof over your head, electricity, and all those things. You aren't your own local government. He is. So the cost of living for him is probably high for certain reasons, just because he lives in Nigeria and he has to be his own government. So his reality is different. He's taking care of his reality. And you happen to be the money spree that's doing that. And you're playing that part. And that's great. But he's not responsible for you not being honest and saying, I earn $10,000. My expenditure is 12,000. Me giving to you is going to be 2,000. I will not comply because I am unable to. That lack of honesty, lack of realization and introspection and being upfront and not having those conversations is not the responsibility of the people back home. It's your responsibility, a responsibility you face to address.
Efe, what's your view on that?
As Banker spoke about this, I actually remember an incident growing up. So, you know how, growing up and you hear Uncle this is overseas, is in Europe, is in America, and every picture that Uncle Lagbaja sends or Auntie it looks great. They're balling, right?
Yeah.
It's curated to everything. So, and of course, you'd always send your lists. Send me this.
It sounds like you were sending a lot of lists.
Because if you're balling, then look, let's ball here too.
Exactly.
And then, more at the time, or more often than not, you're probably going to get items off your list of requested, and Christmas time, even through the year, But then as we grew older, right, and you talk to some of these people, or even experience them, you travel and see how they live, what's going on, the times and the obligations that they have, and then it dawns on you that all this time they were indulging you, and indulging you and also trying to put up a good front. Look, there was actually a much deeper struggle, right?
Yes.
In there. And I think I was reading some report, I forget, but it's kind of said, look, for the average person, leaving a place where it's got established connections, roots and all, right?
Yeah.
And you're migrating to get new opportunities. More often than not, that move alone probably sets you 3-4 years back.
It
right?
does.
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
And in that time, you still need to keep up appearances, or most people feel they need to keep up appearances, and sort out certain obligations that you cannot do away with. So if you're a husband or a wife who is left, you've got a family, it's your family. You need to do what you need to do, right? Even if conditions aren't right for you. And I think that's where, in all of this, the self-awareness of the individual comes. You must know what are the important things, what are the things that must be done, right? And why do people constantly feel this pressure to paint a picture that is not? I mean,
that's an important question.
Reasons for
that. I think it's sentiment. I think they want people to make it look, especially when people have invested in you and you want to not dash hopes. So if people's aspiration is to always make it out and you embody that hope, if you didn't look like life is not all that rosy, then you dash a lot of hopes, right? And a lot of people are looking forward to that. And it's what makes us human, right? So if you look like you haven't made it, it's even worse for people that are looking up to you than it is for you not feeling like you haven't made it. And so I think that's where the self-imposed thing comes in. But there are also other reasons, right? Even when you get yourself together, I think the pressure of keeping two homes, sometimes we all grew up with immigrant parents, where you always think, well, if my dad just concentrated on his existence in the United Kingdom with his nuclear family, we'll probably be better off if we didn't have to worry about keeping two homes, where you're operating your home in Nigeria, you're operating your home in Mozambique, and then you're still living in Florida and you're living in Berlin. It's harder. So when you compare the income, because now the conversation is different, right? Immigrant parents or immigrant people earn well. When you look at all the statistics, you kind of feel like, wow, the revenue looks good. But our realities are quite different, because we are raising third culture kids who don't understand why we have obligation in continents they've never really related to. Yet your sentiments as a human being you can't just waver it off, because home is still home for you. So you're really you're keeping homes and expenditure that don't align with what your counterparts who earn the same would have to worry about. And that's where that's where the wealth
Yeah.
disparity continues to
You know,
exist.
Someone once said to me, so I was talking to one of my clients, a South African company, but this guy's Cameroonian, and we're having a conversation one day, and he said something really, really interesting. He's talking about how we need to promote Africa, how we need to get Africa, going. We can't always wait for the government, etc. We all know the rhetoric, right? And then he said something. He said, "Bim, when you were negotiating your salary, did you negotiate did you negotiate that you'll be sending money to the village?" He said, "Listen, these Oyinbo people you're working with and for, they don't have village, they do not have village. But you, even if you've not been to the village for years, the day will come when you have to actually step in that village. And trust me, they will ask you for something." Exactly.
It even gets worse than that.
I laughed and I was like, this is
nuclear
serious.
Setup, when white people are negotiating, when white men are negotiating salaries, they negotiate it knowing fully well. John Smith would negotiate knowing that he's going to cater to all of the family. He knows that Jane Smith will be looking after his 4 kids. When you're an expert, it's so evident, right?
Yeah.
They would negotiate salary that would deal with all of that, right? But you are Wale or Kunle, you negotiate already thinking that Bisola, your wife, will be bringing in 200K. So that's feel like you're going to go to the negotiation table only asking for 200. John Smith is going for 400, and there's nothing you can say because he believes he needs it. He's not relying on the black tax that Bisola is going to bring to the table. You know what I mean? So even in the nuclear setup and our relationships, we already put that pressure. It's unsaid and it's unspoken, but the expectation is there that my partner is going to bring to the table. White people are like, this is my bit, and I'm going to have to look after it. So that his wife is going to look after his 4 kids, and then in 20 years' time, when the statistics come up, they're going to be well brought up and they're not going to be dysfunctional. But it goes deeper. Carries on.
Yeah.
It just they say don't marry the firstborns. I'm like, it doesn't really matter because the middle child could be the person that earns the most in a family. You know what I mean? Yeah. So don't be caught up by not dating people that are firstborns. You know what I mean? That might not be the problem, or marry a girl that's the last born or whatever. But what if all his sisters get married and then something really happens in their life and they become reliant on him? Some of these things we cannot control. We do not control who we fall in love with, and the circumstances that come to meet people in life, sometimes you just carry your burdens. You carry your
cross, man.
Yeah. So you have to decide how you want to do it.
But, I think I can't remember exactly what it was you said, but it just brought a thought to mind. The other side of this argument are the parties on the other end, the receiving end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people back home. I think beyond guys in the diaspora or people subjected to the attack and all, beyond them being realistic about their position and also trying to paint the accurate picture, I think on a base level, right, moving to another country or whatever it is, for whatever reason, maybe the best of circumstances or not, but it in itself, it's a challenge, right, for many people. Yeah. There's a cool-off period that you need to acclimatize, you need to get set up infrastructure, get a job, or move up all of those things, and I think people back on the receiving end also need to show a lot more empathy and understanding, right?
Yeah.
I think across board, you look, the expectations are different, so whilst there are people that just they may or may not need that money for sustenance. There are others that actually that's what the sustenance is, right? But nevertheless, there still needs to be understanding. If you milk these golden goose to death, there will be no eggs, no growth.
There'll be nothing left.
Just invite them for summer in London. Let them come and live in a shoebox. There's no point expecting people to know how the other half live. You show them. Invite them.
Right.
Once you invite them once, oh my goodness, the list changes drastically. Don't tell them. Nobody listens. People see.
That's right. That's right.
But having said that, I think the very important thing that we touched on at the beginning, right? This whole imbalance, it's the wealth disparities, historical wealth disparities that have led us, in a sense, led us here. Yeah. So you graduate college in Europe, America, wherever it is. Yeah. You've got credit almost instantly, right? Even before you graduate. You want to buy a car, there's credit available for you. You want to buy an apartment and move out of your parents, there's credit available for you. In Africa, in most African countries, it's not the case. Yeah. And you have people staying at home for longer. You have to save up to buy. I remember that my first car, when after a while, I still couldn't put together money to buy the car, I couldn't get a loan. I had to borrow money from family. Yeah. And the thing is, it's good that family could give me the
Could
loan.
help. Yeah.
Could help and everything, right? It's good. But I think more importantly, we must be deliberate about this thing about, creating wealth, right? Helping people, just ensuring that the next generation are going to start off on a better footing. And I think regardless of your situation in life, look, it can happen. When you say this thing, many people just automatically think about inheritance, and that's just not it. Providing people, look, even just education, difficult as it may seem, is one way. Yeah. Mentoring. So look, this guy, the path you're following, I don't like it. It makes no sense. Go talk to Uncle XYZ. He's tried, he's done something for himself. Those kind of very deliberate actions, I think they help. And of course, where possible, if you are able to give your kids an inheritance, obviously within bounds of reason, right? You need to show that they're also going to do better and leave this inheritance for the next generation, or leave something for the next generation. But I think it's very important that this is it's a deliberate part of raising kids, especially in this our societies where all these imbalances and
already exist
should be taking roots, because it's unfortunate, but it still continues. This whole issue of wealth creation continues to be
a problem.
And I remember the very first time I heard that someone said that XYZ is rich, but he's not wealthy.
They're different things. They're different things.
Over time, I've seen exactly what that means, right?
Yeah.
You're rich, got cash, you're changing your cars every 4 years and all of those things, but there's no estate planning. There's nothing in itself that is literally regenerating that cash. You pass on, and that's it. You've got houses and cars for people to inherit, but those houses come with obligations. They must be maintained. There's no cash to maintain them. They fall apart, and that's it. Back to zero. The next generation is starting from scratch.
But honestly, I honestly think that this is what I meant when I said we have to make sure the black tax is not about throwing money at things. We need to be responsible for pragmatic help. Building generational wealth. If you can't do it this way, you can do it that way. You can do it backward, right? Offering help to people and elevating them. It's the poverty alleviation scheme, right? But just do it in pragmatic ways that they can help themselves later. Like if he said education, giving opportunity, give people ropes, right? Don't just give them money, give them opportunity, let them come up by themselves. Not only do you mitigate the entitlement problem, because then they'll have to give something for them to work up the ladder as well, right? Absolutely. So I think as Black people, if we get nothing else from this conversation, let's reduce the angst towards black tax and think about pragmatic ways to help those people that we're trying to get out of that poverty. We want to get more of us into like that system where we reduce the disparity, the wealth disparity, so we all come to a level playing field. I think that the bigger problem and the sad thing for me is our generation, you, me, Efe, we're now in a situation where we've seen our counterparts start off better off, right? We've seen what their parents are able to do, even the immigrant parents. I mean, I don't want to be funny, but if you're a Black parent and your kids are going to school doing those sort of like career options that are very expensive, such as medicine, and we know how it is. The Asian folks come in and they have all the money they need. They never go to university renting, right? Mommy and daddy will buy them a flat. They will rent it to all the other parents that have not planned properly. So it's not so much of what you have now. Let's practice those things. When you're getting mortgages, when you're worried about inheritance tax, what are you doing? How are you passing it on to your 17-year-old child, your 18-year-old child? Think about what we're doing now. Think about your kids. Don't throw money back at problems back home. Give people ropes. Let them be better off. You know what I mean? And now we're very negligent when it comes to our planning and giving our children financial literacy. You know what I mean? We're so bothered about giving them the best. We always want to be the one giving them what they need. We're not giving them the tools. We're not using, like a lot of people, when
and
you
that's
talk about
very
credit,
important.
we're
That
not,
is so
it's
important.
very important. We're not building credit. You live in a system like this where everything is sorted for you, but people don't know how to build good credit. They think it's just going to come. And by the time you're 24, all you have to your name is your student loan. That's scary.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, guys, honestly, I still have one more question, but I'm not sure we have enough time. But let me just end it on this note. And that's with a question. And I want us to come back to talk about it. This is an interesting one. And of course, it all goes back to this whole black tax situation. And of course, we've already dissected the various ways in which black tax can be viewed, seen, experienced even. And three of us, our bloodline is Nigeria. So we are Nigerians, yes. So my last question, which we don't have to answer now because I believe this is something that needs a whole hour or two, is Nigeria a failed system? Because people back home, I'm going back to this, people back home just think, everyone wants to leave. Well, maybe not everyone. Most people want to leave. Yeah.
Jackpot.
Exactly. They want to jackpot. Like, seriously, they want to leave. And they believe they need to come to another country where everything works for them, the system works and all of that. But thankfully, we have people like Efe, who's, flying the flag for us, who is still staying, right? But
ask him again after the election.
So I feel this is a topic on its own, and we don't have to, deep dive right now.
Definitely is a topic. It definitely is a whole topic.
It's a whole topic, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to it when we define what a failed state is. I think that's a easier way for you to see objectively, because sentiment will not allow you to answer that question. But there are parameters that tells you what a failed state is. And let me tell you, you are threading a fine line. Once you are your own local government, it pretty much is.
Oh dear. It's don't know what to say, but you know what, guys, let's end this here, and we'll catch up again, and we'll discuss this Nigeria situation being a failed system. And with I still, let me put it this way, there's still that. Banker, you mentioned that invite them over, let them come to London and stay in a shoebox and see what things are like. Because while they're still back home and they're not visiting, they still feel like, oh, you're probably
still
living
abroad.
you're abroad. You're in the abroad, living.
Taking pictures in Canary Wharf and sending back home.
And we need to stop lying. Don't go to the village and flex and make all of us look stupid.
Exactly. Oh my days.
That's for you, Uncle Emeka, in case you listen to this podcast.
I'll find an Uncle Emeka and send it to and Auntie Teresa or something. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time today. As always, I have enjoyed this chat, and we are coming back to discuss this Nigeria situation. But thank you. This is something that is really important for us to know, to look into. Yes, it's great to pay it forward. Yes, it's great to look back and help people as well. It's also important for people to know that, you know, you've got to be realistic with your expectations. And most importantly, if you're the one giving out money, giving out funds, giving out other things that would ideally help your people, you need to equally, you know, manage yourself and do right by you. Manage yourself, manage your own expectations, you know, and just do right by you. At the end of the day, if you're funneling everything you have to help someone else, that someone else probably wouldn't give a damn about you some years down the line when you haven't achieved anything for yourself. It's just what it is. So yeah, we just have to look on the positive side and have to make things happen in the right pragmatic way, you know, borrowing a banker's term there. So thank you, Efe and Banker. Thank you so much. A big thanks to our listeners as well. And until next time, it's been from BlueSitron. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.